Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for attending today's call regarding our child care centers here in Torrington. And I'll just give a quick welcome and let you all know what our purpose here is and what we're trying to accomplish, and really reach out to you for this. The city is in our survive and thrive recovery mode. We are looking at our community needs as well as our business needs, and we're trying to make sure that we identify the right resources to our businesses so that they can survive, and the right resources to our community. We recognize that these child care centers and child care providers really fit into both of those categories. You yourselves are businesses that are trying to survive, trying to open, and trying to be successful, but you are also providing a need in the community that we're finding is one of the largest unmet needs. With some of the restrictions and daycare centers not open or at a reduced staff, there's a lot of need out there for child care placement. And so we really wanted to look to you for a couple of reasons. One, tell us what it is that you need to help survive as a business, and also what do you think we can do or the state can do to help fill that need in the community. Even if some of the executive orders were lifted, do you think families would feel comfortable coming back? How do you think they would react? And I also wanted, we'll get a little bit more detail about some of the other things we're doing as a city, but that's just kind of the overview of the purpose of this call. The chat feature is not turned on. It's not available for this call. So what I will do is after we've kind of gone through and given you some updates, we will let you unmute yourself and ask any questions. And I do have a few questions from that we can go off of in the beginning. So Chief Towie, do you want to just give a quick update?
Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, thank you, Rista. And thank you everyone for taking the time to log on. Like Rista said, you guys are a vital part of our efforts as we move, through the response mode and into that recovery mode, and sort of work through that impact that COVID has had on our community and all of us personally. Rista, Tom is trying to log on from Torrington Area Health. I don't know if there's anyone in the waiting room. As we go through this, our goal and our hope here is that we're a resource. We're looking to partner with everyone. We are working through the guidance just like everyone else is. There's a lot of times we may not have a specific answer or specific understanding, but we're here and interested in being partners, and so is Torrington Area Health. They've been a great resource, sort of partnering to work through the guidance and sort of put some real-life, realistic solutions into that guidance to comply, but continue to work as we reopen our communities and get everything back to a more stable, more probably not going back to what it was before, but we're trying to get to get closer to that point and really strive to come out of this stronger than we went in. The goal here is to hear from you, so I'm going to stop talking and I'll send it back to Rista for the other introduction. Thank you.
So the city has put together a community recovery committee, and part of this committee is, we want to try to recognize the needs of all the different aspects of our community. And Cassandra Week from Brooklyn Memorial is representing the child care providers and is on this call, and I'm just going to give her a few minutes to introduce herself and tell you a little bit about some of the other things that we're doing that are child care specific. And really, I'm here as a resource. Torrington Area Health District, Fire Chief Marty Connor, our city planner, is here. But as far as our recovery plan and what your needs are and what hurdles are in your way and what resources are available, Cassandra will really be taking a leadership role in that. So I'll give her a few minutes to just introduce herself and let you know some of the other great things that we're doing.
Thank you, Rista. So I hope you all can hear me all right. My name is Cassandra Wyke. You can also call me Cassie. I am Brooker Memorial's Client Support and Program Coordinator, and I'm also the interim manager for our Center for Children's Therapy right now at Brooker Memorial. I do have experience in a child care center with Jana Freer, so thank you for joining me today, Jana. And I was a mental health therapist prior to this, and I've always specialized in working with young children. So I am very happy to be here to represent your voices, and please feel free to ask me any questions that you have or use me as a soundboard as to what you feel the child care centers may benefit from in Torrington and how we can best help you. Um, a part of this committee, we did send out a survey monkey, and I want to thank you to those who did complete that survey. That is a great way for us to be able to hear your responses. And so I did just kind of want to summarize some of the things that I did hear on that. It seems that everybody who responded has a very general response of really needing some extra support in getting the cleaning supplies and PPE. That seems to be a large deficit in the area, and if we can have some resources for that for the child care centers, I think that would be best. They also, because of the extra requirements that they need, that means that they have to have smaller classroom sizes and things need to be disinfected more often, which means more supplies, so on and so forth. Extra staffing seems to be another concern, just because that then leads to more money that they need, but if there's less revenue, then where are they getting the funds from? Something that we had talked about prior in another meeting was that a lot of child care centers were able to receive grant funding, which I know they're very thankful for, but what happens when those grants do run out, and where will the money come from, especially if we're not able to increase our number of children that we are seeing in the center? And how are people supposed to be making the requirements that they need to if they're funded by certain programs? How can they make those requirements if they're not adjusting according to the times? And then I do just want to put some questions out there that some child care centers gave me in the Survey Monkey. One of them was asking for some resources that the town plans to offer programs, the child care programs. So I think that's something we can all think about throughout this call and going forward. And then as resources do present themselves, I'm more than happy to send that out. My plan is to create a server for child care centers in Torrington, whether you are center-based or home care daycare centers. I would like to create a email server so that way I can email blast information out and resources. If you have any questions, you can, odds are when you have a question, somebody else is thinking that question as well. And so I would like to just be able to answer that and help everybody as much as possible. So if you have any questions or need any support, please let me know. Your voices are most important because you're working and doing it firsthand. And so I want to hear exactly what you have to say, and then we can go from there and start making change.
Great, thank you. I also, Marty Connor, who's our city planner, is also on the call, and I don't want to put him on the spot, but I did want everybody to know that he is the chairman of our regional recovery committee, which, so from our local committee, we kind of find out what our local needs are. We try to fill it with local resources, and when we can't, we bring it up to the regional committee and then up through the chain to the state and federal government to try to get those resources here locally. And I know childcare has been something that's not only on our radar, but is also on the regional committee's radar. And I didn't know if Marty, if you had just a few words you wanted to say about that.
Yeah, the regional committee recognizes right now that childcare is an issue with what the current regulations that are in place are. I know I serve on the board of directors for the YMCA, and they've been very limited with the number of children that they can actually have there based on the current state's requirements, substantially less than what they had been authorized for. So I just see this as becoming a major problem because we got people now that are being called back to work and they need some place for their children to be safe during the day. And we're looking around at the various camps that are not running this year because of the rules. Last week, Lark announced they weren't going to run their day camp. I know some of the local towns have decided that the regulations that they have to work under are too onerous. I saw last week Litchfield decided they weren't going to run their recreation day camp program. Goshen is. Torrington decided that they weren't going to run theirs. So where are the kids going to go for the summer as the parents get back to work? I see it as a real problem to our recovery if we can't get people back to work because of child care issues.
Great. And so I think, you know, that was kind of a good segue to this portion of it. And, you know, if anybody who works in childcare who's on the call would like to unmute yourself and give us any suggestions or comments that you have about ways that we can help you fill that capacity or fill that need to the community, or what you need to help us do that, we would be happy to hear from you. Nobody wants to say anything?
This is Jana. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm on my porch at home. I had to come home for a virtual school thing, so I'm not sure how good my connection is. I think that Cassie and Marty really hit a lot of it on the head. That's the biggest thing. We have been open throughout. We're licensed for 126 children right now. They just raised it to right now we're allowed to have 50. But you know, with the guy, and in order to do this right and do it safely, you need to have extra staff with limited enrollment. So I think that that's the biggest thing to try to pull off right now. We've spent the last few months figuring out how to do this right and how to do it safely, but how much longer will we be able to sustain the manpower that we need in order to do it? And what we're running into right now, like you said, is parents are starting to go back to work, and we're getting calls from all these other programs that have closed that are looking for a place to go. And we don't really necessarily have capacity even for our own families to come back, never mind help other folks in the community that now need a safe place for their children to go so that they can go back to work.
Do you think, with any of your feedback from your families, that even if the restrictions were lifted where you could have more students in a classroom, that families would feel comfortable sending their children?
I don't think it's a one size fits all. Those that have somewhere to go, people that have a family to watch their kids or what have you, a lot of people are choosing to do that. You know, we've definitely had both. We've had people that are going to stick it out and stay at home for as long as they can, but the amount of people starting to go back and calling and saying, I'm going to have to go back soon, I'm worried that I still have my spot, is outweighing the amount that can stay home. I mean, little by little, folks are staying home. We were lucky. We do have infants and toddlers, so really we were limited to 28 because you can only have 10 in a room. And we really hung at that, and the capacity was lifted just as we needed to take more in. But especially with summer camp approaching, we're going to have to start telling people no, which is a hard thing to have to do when they need a safe place to go and you don't have room to take them in, or staff, because you know you need to have enough staff to do all that as well.
Are you finding, Jana, that when you do have to turn people away, or is this something that you're anticipating in the future, is that you will struggle to provide them with any resources in addition? Like, would you feel more comfortable or just a little bit better turning people away because you weren't able to, but knowing that they had another option? Like if we were to create a list or some, like a pamphlet or a brochure, some sort of resources. So not necessarily you just turn these families away and say, best of luck, I'm sorry, we can't help, but rather here is something that these people may be able to help you. Would that be beneficial?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've done that locally. A lot of us have had a group going and we've kept on top of who has room for what, so we can refer anyone we talk to someplace else if necessary. You want to make sure you know where you're referring to. Also, I wouldn't refer someplace I didn't know was a, a place to go. Obviously, if you're creating a place, that would be such a thing. But it hasn't necessarily happened yet with all the registration coming in. But that's what's on the horizon. It's having to tell people, possibly even our own people, that we don't have room. But yes, absolutely. My first thing, if I couldn't take them, would be to try and help them find a place to go. But with the amount of programs that are closed, you mentioned 2 of the camps, I think, that are closed. Some of the centers are still closed. There's definitely not enough room for everybody right now. And I want to say the past week, the phone has just rung off the hook with folks either looking for a new place to go or our own families trying to come back. So this is when it's going to start becoming an issue.
Any suggestions on how to fix that?
No. I mean, we have places that are closed and the places that are open have a limited capacity. So there's just not enough room for everyone. And the Office of Early Childhood guidelines are for obvious reasons to keep the group sizes small, and obviously they're on top of what's a safe capacity to have. But the only thing that we can do is open more things in more places somehow. But we're all not affording what we have now, so I don't know how that would happen. I mean, I would obviously say let's help all of those folks that are trying to do this already before we make new places. We have places that aren't open right now because they can't afford to. So I would hope that we would look to those folks first that have already been in this community and already know how to do this right. But it's just, it sort of is what it is. We have everybody going back to work, and we're limited on where they can send their kids. So it's difficult.
Is there anyone else on the call that wanted to jump in on that?
I'll chime in. I am Jan Sesnicki. I'm the director at Hilltop Christian Early Learning Center at St. Paul's Church. We're primarily a part-time preschool. So we always go by the school calendar. So we closed down when school closed down, and we haven't reopened. So our plan is to reopen for the beginning of the school year. What I wanted to share is that I sat in on a call today that Beth Bai was speaking at, our commissioner of early childhood. And she did say in the next, by the end of this week, beginning of next week, they're going to be upping the 10 more, but she didn't give us a number. So
I heard that part too, and it didn't sound definite. It sounded like they were talking about it.
It sounded to me as though she was going to, by the end of this week or the beginning of next week, that was going to change. And they are going to be doing some grant money for some Kickstart money for centers to help them cover some of those, whether it's staffing or whatever. But if you have school readiness money, which we do have some school readiness money, I guess that won't be an option for us because we're going to get some help with school readiness. So, and then there's going to be a grant for supplies, like cleaning supplies and PPE. So that's some of the stuff I heard from this call that I was in today.
Did they say with upping the class size, if they were also raising the 50 capacity?
I did not get that impression. Just the class size.
So in a way, it doesn't even help unless you're limited to how many rooms you have.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you had a room that was licensed for 20 kids and you can only have 10 kids in it.
Right.
And now you can have, well, even if it's 12 kids or.
Right. No, absolutely.
It would help a little bit, but it's, you're still
But
gonna.
if you're still limited to 50 and your
Yeah.
license is, you can still only have 50, so it's still forward progress. It's good.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I will say for us, you know, I won't really know how things will look until we get closer to the fall, but I did get a phone call from a family that's been with us for 2 years, and they've decided to pull their child for his 4-year-old year because of the virus. So I would expect more of that for us because we are part-time, and most of our children are, it's kind of an option. It's not their childcare like Jana and Rhonda. So, so I'm curious to see how that will play out for us.
And to answer the previous question, I think that's the key. It's the people where it's an option that they are staying home.
Yeah,
Folks that require it for their care, or the school-age kids that are normally in school or at a camp, and folks have to go back to work, that they're the ones
exactly.
the choice. So they, you know, most of them have to find a place to go.
That's right. And on a personal note, I have a grandson, and my daughter-in-law and son are very cautious about it. She's a school teacher, so she's out for the summer now, but she's very cautious about putting him back in daycare. So I don't think it's going to happen for him. I have a feeling my husband's going to be a babysitter. So
I've had my own son home as well.
no.
He has asthma, and it's, you know, hard to think of a big group of kids, but fortunately I have other options, but a lot of people don't.
So I think this is a great conversation. I really appreciate hearing your feedback, and you know, I don't want this to be the end of the conversation. So as you come up with different ideas, or you think of something, or you hear something, please reach out to Cassie or I. But I also wanted to like just switch gears just a little bit. And from your business perspective, as you're trying to comply with the guidelines and know what's going on, we have, you know, the Torrance Area Health District's on the call, Fire Chief Captain Gonzalez from the Police Department here. So if there's questions, or if you have, you know, any concerns at all from that perspective, how to agree with the guidelines, you have a difficult parent, not wanting to comply with what your rules are, we're here to help you with that too. And I don't know if, Tom, you've been on a lot of these calls, and you I think have a good sense of that we're just trying to help people and not really be that strict enforcement if we don't have to. So if you want to just give a couple minutes and let everybody can know who you are and what role you play with that. You're muted. You there?
Yeah, I'm trying.
I got you.
All right, there we are. Yeah, thanks. We have been seeing a lot of complaints from folks. I think if we put this akin to the salons and whatnot, we had a lot of people turning one another in, competition. I don't see that necessarily with the daycare industry. I think you guys are all not really competing as much as like an industry is, or a service industry like that. But we do receive a lot of complaints for people, a lot of concerned parents that are looking for the guidance. We're basically referring them to the guidance that Office of Early Childhood has posted. We don't actually license the daycare, so we don't get a lot of direct contact with you guys for initiating all this guidance, but we would certainly be happy to help you interpret it, because a lot of this guidance does carry over to all the different industries. So obviously use this as a resource. We're happy to help you out in any way we can. Rista, is there any specific question you wanted me to cover, or?
No, not at this time, unless anybody else has any questions. I didn't get a lot of questions ahead of time, like some of the other calls we've done. And this is a bit of a smaller group, but it is being recorded so that it can be a resource for everybody down as we go. So if anybody has any questions in that regard about sanitation or any of the guidelines, please feel free to ask. We're all here to help you out with that. I guess I'm going to assume that nobody has any questions in that regard. Cassie, is there anything else that you wanted to add?
So just, I guess there were two things. The one, I can just say again, the one question that was asked on the Survey Monkey was what the town, what resources the town does have to offer the child care centers at the moment, or what they're planning on. And then, which I know we already kind of spoke about what we're doing in the committee, but then another resource that I did want to let you know is Rista and I are in the process of adding some policies and procedures to the website. So I'm collaborating those right now, and they will be located on the city's website, but also a link on Brooker Memorials. But I'm working with our IT to get those posted. And then once that's all up and running, I will let you all know, so that way you can go and use those if you need any ideas or some language for your policies for your organizations, or if you would like some certain procedures or just some feedback, feel free to let me know, and we can go from there. But other than that, I don't think I had anything else to add. And I think that's it. If everybody else, if you guys don't have any other questions, that's it for me.
I do have one more thing I should have added. Someone asked about like what can be done. I think there's a lot of misconception about what's actually going on inside the centers. A lot of the questions I get are about what we're doing to keep folks safe. People have sort of this image of being put through this full physical on their way through the door and being kept like just entirely away from each other in masks all day. So I think anything we can do to sort of get out to folks that, you know, these things are being done, they're being done safely, and the kids are still having a fun-filled day would help put people's minds at ease a lot. We did a video ourselves for folks, just what we're doing in the childcare and what the policies are, and it's been a great tool for our parents because we can't let them in. So for them to be able to actually see what we're doing and that we're doing it during the day was very helpful for that. And for people from other programs that are calling and saying, you know, how are you staying open? Are you social distancing? Are you doing this? We can just show them. So I think anything we can do to sort of help that image of this sterile institutional where nobody sees each other all day, I think. But at the same time, we really are doing all of these extra things to keep your kids safe all day, I think would help with that fear for folks that have to go back to work and need to send their kids somewhere.
Jana, I want to let you know that that video was amazing. I really loved it. I actually went and I shared it with a ton of people at Brooker, and I was like, look at how great this video is. It definitely even brought some peace of mind to me as a provider, knowing that everybody else is kind of handling this the same way, because it is that same, it's same but different when you walk through the doors. And we don't hear as much laughter and giggling down on my end of the hallway anymore, but because they have to be down in childcare, but they are still able to have fun and learn and explore. And I love hearing them laugh on the playground and different things like that. So the children are still just children that are playing and learning and exploring, and business does go as usual for them, which is great. And I think that your video really did a great job explaining that there are extra procedures put into place to keep everybody safe and clean and healthy, but we're also still the same loving people that we are, that we always were, and teaching your children and taking care of your children. And I thought you guys did a really great job with that.
Thank you. And that's what some of the feedback we've had was, it was so nice to see that the kids are playing and laughing. So I think there is sort of a misconception there of, you know, how we've all figured out how to make it work, and what's really going on inside is part of the fear for parents.
Like the old days.
That's interesting to me. I want to think about that and see if there's a way we can capitalize on that and try to help families feel more safe sending their children to these providers. At the same time, if there's not space for them to go, we don't want to, we want to try to find a spot for them. Have you had any experience with 211? Has that been helpful? It's my understanding that it's going to continue, and not just for emergency our essential workers.
As far as people finding us,
Yeah.
yes, I am. Yeah, we've had people call that have said we were listed on 211, and I know they've done a great job of keeping that up to date as far as everyone's status and capacity.
Great.
I think the places that are closed are also doing a great job of helping folks know what's available out there.
Great.
What do you find is the most beneficial way that you have been contacting with families? Is it, I know some people are using the Bright Wheel app, which is, for those who don't know, a mode of communication, and it's a way that they can write down their daily sheets for the children, but so much more than that as well. They're able to share flyers, information, resources, photos of the children, and they're able to do a chat feature through it. I know some childcare centers are using that, but are you finding that telephone's easiest? I just want to get a better idea as to how we can reach out best, because we don't have the opportunity to use Bright Wheel such as your centers do. But if we do have information, would it be best for us to contact it to you and then you send it out to your families, or what would be the most beneficial way for all of us to be able to provide resources to those in need of it?
As far as myself communicating with the families, Bright Wheel has been life-saving through this, because you can get everybody all at once and update all day long, and everyone gets it immediately. So it's been great for a lot of things. I think if you're trying to get information out through us, I mean, probably email, because then we can either send it out to our parents electronically or, print and hand out to our parents that are attending. I think it would look very different for a center who's closed. A center who's closed would definitely need stuff electronically.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. I think does anybody have anything else? I think that's probably about it. I've been hearing some silence here. We give everybody a chance if anybody had anything else. I know the mayor was hoping to join us to express her gratitude to the work that you're doing, for the community with our children, and just let you know that we are a resource for you and that we want to continue this conversation. This isn't a one-time thing. The whole city staff, Torrington Area Health District, we're all here to help and get through this together and be a partnership. So please feel free to reach out to me, Rista Malanka, the Economic Development Director. My email is on our website, but it's also Rista_Malanka@torringtonct.org. We do have a community recovery email, which is torringtonthrives@torringtonct.org. So use either one of those email addresses, reach out to Cassie directly, or any of our organizations, and we are here to help you. If you have any ideas, also reach out and we can send it up, because one of the questions was about resources, and we don't right now have any resources, but if we have specific asks or specific resources that we do need, we can send that up through Marty, through the regional recovery committee, and to the governor. So please let us know what those are. As far as PPE and sanitizer, a list just came out the end of last week of the companies in Connecticut, and I think there's some just over the border in different states that are providing PPE for you, and hand sanitizers I saw on the list. So that will also be posted on our website. So if you do need to purchase that, you can. I know some groups are forming coalitions so that they can buy more in bulk. So if daycare providers want to join together and buy PPE in bulk, we can help arrange that and facilitate that for you as well. Please let us know if that's something that you do want to do. And other than that, just, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today, and let's keep this conversation going. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.